Greetings, true believers, and welcome to the first episode of Fashion of the Marvel Universe. This channel is sponsored in part by Patreon supporters. If you would like to vote in monthly polls to help decide which topics get added to the schedule, you can head over to patreon.com/MaryMarvelite and sign up for as little as $1 per month. Most of the time, we look at the canonical origin and history of Marvel Comics characters, but this week we're doing something a little different. For today's episode, we're going to go over the various suits that Moon Knight has worn in the Marvel Universe, and perhaps take a quick look at a few others. When Marc Spector was revived by Khonshu and first became the Moon's Knight of Vengeance, he took a cloak that was draped over the statue of the Moon God. This inspired his first real costume, designed by his ally, Marlene Alron, which he wore in his public debut battling the Werewolf by night. This original black and white outfit soon evolved into his classic look, but there were a few notable differences. In addition to using more black, particularly on the inside of the legs, the hood didn't yet have its iconic shape, and the cape was much shorter, tapering off into 2 points on each side, which then connected to his gloves. By the time Moon Knight was given his own self-titled book, this had changed to the full cape, which could flutter open into the shape of a crescent moon, and could also be used as a makeshift glider or parachute. The hood gained the iconic point, which tapered down, often obscuring his white mask in dark shadows. The eyes were typically white, but sometimes depicted as red, usually on covers. Despite often being stylistically obscured by darkness, the suit itself became almost entirely white. He wore this costume until the end of his original solo series, when he abandoned the identity of Moon Knight. Meanwhile, his fashion choices outside of his superhero costume typically reflected which of his alters was fronting at any given time. Initially, these separate personalities appeared to be identities created by Spector and were used to walk in different social circles to gain information. However, it was later more firmly established that Marc Spector had been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. As Manhattan cab driver Jake Lockley, he typically wore a button-down cap and a simple jacket. Stephen Grant, conversely, wore expensive tuxedos as a millionaire philanthropist. For a brief time, Marc Spector retired as Moon Knight, but after he was recruited again by a trio of Khonshu's ancient priests, he was provided with an updated costume. This new suit resembled the old, but with a golden ankh replacing the crescent moon on his chest, and the addition of ornate pieces adorning his waist, wrist, and legs. He wore this suit for the 6 issues of his second series, but the crescent moon symbol on his chest returned for his subsequent appearances in the West Coast Avengers. However, eventually the gold pieces to this suit were damaged in battle and removed. This prompted a return to his classic white costume for his next series, Marc Spector Moon Knight, but this was later replaced by an updated, more heavily armored version in issue number 38. In the last few issues of this series, he wore another suit resembling the classic design, but with a much larger belt. He continued wearing variations on the traditional look, having one with red eyes in the 1998 limited series, and back to the classic white eyes for another miniseries the following year. After that, he had a few appearances in the pages of Marvel Team Up, in which he sported a black version of his classic costume, but with a white cloak and accents. He returned to a white suit for the beginning of his 2006 ongoing series, which also gave us a look at some of the different costumes he'd worn to that point. In the 5th issue of that series, he updated his costume once again with gold detailing on the belt, a darker mask, a longer peak on the hood, a seam running up the front going under the crescent moon symbol, and optional knuckle spikes. He continued to wear minor variations on this suit and his classic design over the course of this 30-issue series. He also briefly wore an all-black stealth suit with no cloak and 4 Wolverine-style blades on each hand. Next, in the series Vengeance of the Moon Knight, for most of which Jake Lockley was fronting, Moon Knight wore a new armored suit reinforced with carbonadium, a super strong metal that provided almost as much protection as adamantium, but was much cheaper and more flexible. After this, Moon Knight joined Steve Rogers' Secret Avengers, during which time he briefly wore a different stealth suit. He primarily used the carbonadium armor for a while, but switched to a more classic appearance in time for his 2011 series. And then in his 2014 series, he took on several new suits. One was Mr. Knight, a white formal suit complete with tie and vest, along with a full face mask with a crescent moon on the forehead. He used this identity to work more closely with the police on several street-level investigations. He also had a new Moon Knight costume during this time. It had a black undersuit and a mask with white armored pieces, along with his traditional hood and cape. He also briefly wore a suit which incorporated ancient armor pieces, allowing him to battle spectral opponents. And he later put together a makeshift costume from bedsheets while seemingly trapped in a nightmarish insane asylum. This isn't really a Moon Knight costume, but during a subsequent psychotic episode, the Marc Spector alter envisioned himself as an astronaut defending the Earth against werewolves. After this, Moon Knight made peace with his condition and returned to a classic pure white costume. He also briefly donned a purple version of this suit while infiltrating a group called the Société des Sadiques. During the events of Infinity Wars, when the universe was folded in half and every soul was combined with another, Moon Knight fused with Spider-Man to become the Arachknight, resulting in a new white and red costume. That's pretty much it for Marc Spector and his alters from the Prime Marvel universe, but of course there are others we can mention. While battling Kang the Conqueror in the 2019 annual, Moon Knight encountered other avatars of Khonshu from throughout history. This included a Mesopotamian woman from 4000 BCE, a warrior from ancient Egypt in 2500 BC, a gladiator in ancient Rome circa 300 BCE, a pirate in the North Atlantic in 1710, a soldier in the Revolutionary War outside Boston in 1776, a gunslinging cowboy in Silver Gulch, Utah in 1874, a Victorian man in 1896 London, a gangster in 1925 Chicago, an Allied soldier behind enemy lines in 1945, and a future Moon Knight in the ruins of New York City in 2134 AD. A Moon Knight from the year 2099 doesn't appear in this event, but there are a few of those from different versions of that timeline. Of course, there's an entire multiverse out there, so let's quickly look at some of the alternate versions of Moon Knight and their costumes. The Moon Knight from the Ultimate Universe wears a shadowy costume reminiscent of his 616 counterpart, but with a larger cape and no hood. Instead, he wears a mask with a crescent moon on the forehead. Evidently, this version of Moon Knight has also briefly operated as Ronin, an identity that was notably used by Clint Barton and Maya Lopez in the Prime universe. The Moon Knight of Earth X wears a costume that is reminiscent of a mummy's bandages. The Moon Knight of Battleworlds Egyptia also wore bandages along with Egyptian regalia and the classic hood, while the Moon Knight of the more recent Heroes Reborn universe dressed mostly in black with some white accents and a crescent-shaped eye mask. And that's pretty much all I've got for you this week. Which Moon Knight suit is your favorite, and are there any I missed or forgot about? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe for more Marvelous content. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what Marvel hero or villain you want to hear about next, and as always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!